Static fire trench area all cleaned up and ready for testing at Massey's. Tower sections arrive at Sanchez. Star Factory expansion towards the office building at the build site, and finally OLED 2 footings at the launch site. Hello and welcome to episode 43 of our Starbase Flyover update. My name is Jeff A, and we'll talk about that and more with these latest images brought to you by RGV Aerial Photography. With the weather improving, we were able to get these images here on the 24th of May from 10,500 feet. We'll head over to Massey's to start with. Let's get your bearings here with this labelled map. As always, we will begin at the top half of the site, where we can see things look visibly cleaner compared to last week. This is likely clearing of the site for what would end up becoming the first test of the stand on Friday 24th of May, when Ship 26's LOX tank was partially filled, beginning commissioning of the pipework and related systems. Looking under S26, we can see the platform has been retracted. Off to the side, the concrete work for access under the ship has been poured. We can also see an additional heat exchanger has been installed next to the 4 existing ones, alongside the large water tanks. Here's a couple of renders from Chrome Kiwi detailing the operation of them and how they tie in with the rest of the system. The tanker delivering water is yet another indication that this system is ready for use. Another large section of concrete near the flame stack is getting prepared. Moving to the area next to the LOX tanks, we can see the CFA drilling rig is built and ready to commence pile work for what is speculated to be 3 more LOX tanks. A pile of rebar can be seen sitting nearby. Moving to the structural test area, we can see the second level of the structural test stand has received access platforms and rails. Sitting nearby, we can see 2 new legs for the next level. Next to the ground fabrication building, we can see 2 new steel structures with pistons that appear to swivel. Well, that's it for Massey's, on to Sanchez. Let's take a look at the labelled map as a reminder to those who may be unfamiliar with the layout. Changes are far and few between this week, but we've got some great photos nonetheless. We finally have all 5 sections of Starbase Launch Tower 2 from the port of Brownsville in Sanchez this week. Section 6 arrived during the early hours of Friday, May 24th, just before our flyover. All that remains for a complete launch tower are sections 4 and 5 from KSC. Here is the current position of the sections at the Sanchez site, with 6 likely to be placed to the right of 7. Next up, we see the assembled barrel section used for commissioning of welders in Mega Bay 2 located in the scrapyard. This consisted of a 3-barrel section labelled MB2 Dev Assembly, followed by 2 single rings being stacked. Moving over to the water storage tanks and fire suppression farm, an interesting paint job is being applied to some of the equipment previously painted. Perhaps this isn't for fire suppression alone. While the pipe leading to the upper tank is still red, the rest has been painted blue. The truck parked next to one of the large storage tanks is pulling a potable water tanker, typically used for delivering water to the village for safe consumption. Could this setup be supplying water to some of the build site? Just next to this area, some minor changes have also occurred at the gasification lot. Concrete is being poured in the previous location of the hole used for horizontal boring over towards the high bay. Just next door at Remedios Avenue, asphalt is being laid to cover the hole previously opened up there as well. On the far right, we see work is ongoing in that location. Finally, we move over to the parking garage. After repositioning for connection of the sections on the side closest to the Stargate building, both cranes continue to work in tandem to stack the prefabricated concrete slabs that make up the ramp leading to the next level of the garage. That'll do it for Sanchez this week. Let's check out the build site. Welcome to the build site, where we can expect to see Starship production capacity begin to grow exponentially in the next few months as the newly built phases come online. First, we'll take a look at the bays. In Mega Bay 2, one of the 3 ship workstations is visible through the door. Steelwork can be seen staged inside, to the left and in front for more internal infrastructure. Once again, Vix has put together a handy little time-lapse from Labpadre's Rover 1 camera. Emerging from within Mega Bay 2 on the 22nd of May is this robot welder test article. A 3-ring section was placed on the new turntable in the right rear corner, and then 2 single rings were welded on top by the new robots to form this quint section. In a new development, while on the turntable, tile mounting pins were installed along the welded seams. This will do away with the problematic system of gluing tiles in these locations. Another detail is the 2 half-cylindrical pieces added to the sides. One speculation is some kind of physical buffer for ship-to-tanker orbital fuel transfer. Currently no ships are inside the bay, as Ship 29 is at the launch site, Ship 30 and 31 are in the high bay, and 32 is in the rocket garden. The raceway jig on the ground in front of high bay is a good indication that repairs are underway for the ill-fated S31, aka Sparky. Moving over to Megabay 1, we notice the pathway in between both megabays has been poured with a fresh batch of concrete over the past week or so. Inside Megabay 1 itself sits Booster 12, 13 and 14 in addition to Booster 14.1, which has had its common section, 4-ring section and forward dome stacked to form a mini methane section. It's currently unknown what this test article is for. Outside the base sits a common dome, possibly for Booster 15. Moving on to the Star Factory, HVAC installation has been all but completed. This line of holes in the roof have been left unclad for bridge crane installation, and we can see a crane sticking through one of them at the time of the flyover. Since last week, SpaceX has mostly finished painting Tent 4. Over at the plot of land SpaceX does not currently own, a railing has been installed on top of the retainer wall that allows SpaceX to lay concrete right up to the boundary line. Beside the plot of land, materials are staged outside the Star Factory before they are assembled into various jigs and workstations to fill in the massive new area that is opened up for production. This week, rebar has been set in the dog-bone-shaped footings between Star Factory and the office building, and some have been poured with concrete. These footings follow the curve of Highway 4 and line up to the east-facing facade of Star Factory. On the opposing side, new footings have appeared following the columns of Star Factory's tallest section. It's also worth noting that the north-facing side of Star Factory has had its horizontal steel supports removed. Originally intended to be sealed in, the reopening of this wall as well as the way these new footings are lined up makes it likely that Star Factory will be expanding in the direction of the office building, with some heavy-duty processes taking place in this area. As Star Factory's outermost hallway without bridge cranes continues to get even narrower along Highway 4, as seen by these converging footings, it raises the question what this is for in the first place. Steelwork continues with the new office building with no visible signs of any concrete for the floors yet. Over behind the village, crew continue with preparatory work ahead of the building of the new leisure centre. We can also see a new mystery building is being built behind the Starlink building. Let's take a moment to check the labelled map of the launch site thanks to Procky. We'll start our tour of the launch site with the view of the OLIT-2 foundation piles being excavated in preparation to form the pile cap. We see a square grid of piles now exposed in a 12 by 12 formation. There are 12 spots in the middle that seem not to be needed, giving us 132 piles, plus a couple of others nearby not within the grid. If we zoom in, we can see the 12th row of piles are still being processed. After exposing the top of the pile, crews use a device called the cropper that breaks apart the top portion of concrete to expose the rebar that will eventually be tied together with other rebar to create the pile cap. Around this area we see the perimeter of white pipes that connect the well points to a pump in the left corner that removes groundwater to keep the hole from filling up. As we shift up to the former suborbital tank farm, we see the only hardware remaining is the LOX tank. The afternoon of the flyover would see this tank lifted onto a transport trailer and be trucked away, leaving no more tank hardware in this location. To the right, we can see that new crews continue to remove the berm between the former tank farm and suborbital test pad A. Looking quickly where pad B used to sit, well, it's just a concrete pad, as the legs are no longer visible. As we make our way through the orbital tank farm, we have another great shot of the complete horizontal tanks. This week we continue to see progress on the vertical tank removal. In the scrapping area, all that remains of GSC number 1 is its bottom dome section, with a few cut-up panels on the ground and dumpsters full of additional pieces. Within the farm itself, we can see the mini excavator inside the base of GSC number 2 breaking the concrete pedestal so that the Grove cranes seen above can remove the concrete to the dumpster using a basket like what we see used for moving scaffold pieces on and off the OLM. On the evening of May 24th, the shell base of this tank was hoisted and scrapped. We'll have to keep a lookout for signs of an attempt to remove any of the LOX tanks or if they will leave them in place until after IFT4. Around the backside of the tank farm, we can see the vac trucks are now entering through gate D4 and removing perlite from the LOX tanks, as we can see some of it spilled here on the ground near the hose that attaches to the truck. Looking over near the Deluge tank farm, we see Ship 29 getting a lot of attention. Closures assumed to be a rollback for final work were abandoned in favour of doing this work at the launch site. It seems based on the number of lifts working around all sides of the ship, they decided working out in the open was a more efficient process. The night of May 26th would see Ship 29 again move between the chopsticks. Shifting to the OLM, work seen last week around the LOX tank hatch has all been cleared away. Zooming into the launch ring, we can see that the booster alignment pins have been removed. On May 25th, the access holes for the pin's hydraulics were patched, and later that afternoon saw the removal of the OLM scaffolding. On the afternoon of May 26th, Ship 29 was once again stacked atop Booster 11, likely ahead of additional testing for this week's possible full stack test enclosure. May 28th would see a second attempt at a full wet dress rehearsal. In this clip posted by Vix, we see the full stack as Booster 11 approaches the complete propellant load. Unlike the previous wet dress rehearsal, they did not see the activation of the detonation suppression system or the deluge plate hinting at an aborted countdown. The second attempt would see both systems tested. On May 24th, we were given some insight into what happened during IFT-3 as well as details for the upcoming IFT-4. The full article can be seen on SpaceX's website, but a few highlights include that B-10 did make a nominal ascent. What many observed as an abnormal Raptor shutdown of the boost back burn was correct, with 6 engines shutting down early. LOX filter issues seemed to be a problem once again, leading to that early shutdown as well as the failed relight of the 13 gimbling engines for the landing burn. This included the 6 that shut down prematurely earlier. Ship 28 also completed a nominal ascent. It was observed during the coast phase that the ship seemed to have an uncontrolled roll through most of this portion of flight that would be confirmed by SpaceX. The lack of control attitude appears to have been caused by roll control valves being clogged. While the ship was in this roll, they confirmed a test of the payload bay door as well as the fluids transfer tests were successful, with the in-space relight test being skipped due to the lack of attitude control. As we look forward to IFT-4, they have confirmed that continued upgrades have been made to Booster 11 to better filter the liquid oxygen to increase the chances of completing the boost back burns and landing burns. The introduction of hot stage ring jettison has also been confirmed for the next test, with some speculation that an unplanned loss of the hot stage ring on IFT-3 occurred, though SpaceX has not said anything to confirm or refute those theories. Ship 29 and future ships have received additional roll thrusters as well as hardware upgrades to add redundancy and resilience to those systems. June 5th is now being targeted for the launch of IFT-4 after the SpaceX website was updated with launch summaries and timelines. We hope you enjoyed RGV Aerial Photography's episode 43 of Starbase Flyover Update, and we hope to see you again. If you like what you saw today, please subscribe for more episodes or join our Patreon for even more content so you don't miss out on the latest updates from Starbase Texas. I'm Jeff A, and we'll see you next time.